Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Conversation. My name is Michael Barnett, your host of Conversations with Michael Barnett podcast, and I'm joined today by Drew Shula, the dynamic and amazing CEO of Verdical Group. Drew, how are you, man?
Hey, Michael, thank you so much for having me on, and good morning. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Drew, would you mind telling everybody who you are and a little bit about Verdical Group?
Yeah, for sure. So, Verdical Group is a 20-person company based in California, and we focus on sustainability consulting. So, mostly for buildings, we're helping architects and building owners make their buildings more sustainable, environmentally friendly, energy efficient. And we also started a big conference called the Net Zero Conference that happens every year. That's what I focus on for work.
Okay, fantastic. So today we're going to talk about a lot of cool things that a lot of people want to hear about. But first, let's talk about Coachella. Okay, all right. Nothing to do with sustainability, but Coachella is where we met. It's about 5 years ago maybe more. Actually, it's more than 5 years ago because I started going to Coachella before I moved to Boston, and I've been in Boston for 7 years. So we've actually met probably 8 years ago plus, which was my first time going to Coachella.
We met through my first one too.
Yeah, it was a while ago. So we connected over music and met through a good friend of mine, and who was also on the podcast. About 6 months ago, Cheyenne was on the podcast. So we connected over Coachella, something that I love to do. Clearly you love to do it because I don't think you've missed have you missed a Coachella since?
I think there was one in there that I missed right after my son was born, but I've been, 7 or 8 years in a row now, I think. So, yeah.
Got it. What is the big thing that you love the most about going and experiencing just the Coachella experience?
Music. It's inspiring, and I love music. So I like to keep up with, what's current. And that just the scene at Coachella is just such a wild scene. It's a big fashion scene as well. And the weather there is amazing. It's just an experience that I've loved, and makes me feel like I get to experience the sort of leading edge of culture, with what's happening, in the world at Coachella.
I hear you. And I go to Coachella because I want my kids to think I'm cool.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's worked so far because at Coachella, they give you these little boxes, right? The box that your wristband comes in, and it looks like a book. So I have them stacked in my living room. I have a few of them, and
nice.
In the guest room, we have a couple of them. And so over the years, my kids have seen them. They're like, "Oh, that's right, Dad, Mom, you guys go to Coachella? That's really cool. Like you guys are like cool parents." I'm like, yeah, we're cool parents.
Are they asking you when you're going to take them yet?
Yes.
My 14-year-old is asking me, when do I get to go with you? So
13-year-old wants to go this year. As I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago, we're still deciding whether or not we want to go this year. Operating a startup, we're still in our earlier stages. It's really hard for us to break away for several days to do this, as a lot of founders likely have the same struggles. So we're trying to figure out how to make it happen. So that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I know to see you there.
hope to see you there as well. So some of the things that we're here to talk about today, which are some of the things that other founders would like to hear about specifically for you, is building a mission-driven business. It's not something that everyone has done. It's not something that everyone has done successfully, and it's not something that everyone is in the position to be able to do. So would love to hear a little bit about that. And that is different than Lone Spark because Lone Spark isn't mission-driven per se. We do have a mission, and our mission is to help business brokers, mortgage brokers, and large companies like processing companies, banks, etc., with the resources needed, provide resources needed to help their customers get access to fair business capital and trusted business capital, and business capital that's priced right, non-predatory business capital. But we do it for profit, and our goal is to make money. But at the same time, we do it the right way, not the wrong way. So our mission and what our business stands on is different than your business. So everyone wants to know about mission-driven businesses and how it all works. So that's number one. Number two is the role of leadership and team culture in scaling a business in general, but specifically scaling a business like yours. And then lastly, leveraging partnerships, because you're in a partnerships-based business. We're in a partnerships-based business. So leveraging partnerships and collaborating in collaboration with those partnerships kind of in the growth equation. So just how it all kind of clicks together. So those are the main points that we've selected for today, and I'm ready to get going.
Yeah, love it. Let's do it.
Okay. So Drew, building a mission-driven business. Can you tell me about what was the motivation for you? What was the motivation, driver, inspiration to do that? Let's just talk about that first.
Yeah. Mission-driven business. Well, it's just about wanting to make a positive impact for me. So, and on people and the environment. And when you think about terms like ESG that are getting thrown around a lot, environmental, social governance is a big focus of a lot of companies these days. And it kind of grew from just corporate sustainability, years ago. It's kind of now morphed into ESG, but it's just a desire to do good through business. And so we're a for-profit company, but we're not only focused on profit. We're also focused on, okay, what are the positive impacts we can make on people and the environment? And really, I think every company has the ability to do that, or almost all companies anyway. And your company too, it's like thinking about what those positive impacts are. And like you said, you're already making a lot of positive impacts for people with access to capital that's fair and things like that, and not predatory. Like that's part of being a responsible company that's making a positive impact on people. So some of it is things you might already be doing that you can tell a story around. But we're very proud of what's called a B Corporation. It's a certification for businesses, and I encourage everybody out there listening to check it out. But it looks at all aspects of your company in a points-based system, and if you get enough points, you can call yourself a B Corp. And I think there's maybe 7,000 or 8,000 B Corps now. But it creates like a scorecard and makes you think about every aspect of your company, from diversity to sustainable purchasing policies, whatever, like every aspect of your operations. But anyway, it goes back to originally, I grew up in Maine, real small town and very environmentally focused community. And so after college, I was just really focused on wanting to have a positive impact on the environment through my work. It was like the biggest thing that I was focused on. So that's kind of where it started.
A lot of people think environmental issues are not real, and focusing on environmental impacts are pointless. I don't agree. Clearly, you also don't agree. But what are some of the ways that businesses can make an impact, just from your experience, and maybe some of the things that you do, and maybe some of the consulting that you do, because you consult with businesses to kind of help them understand and implement ways that they can make changes? What are some of the changes that people can make?
Yeah, because you think about it in your personal life, right? In your recycling at home, or maybe you buy an electric vehicle or something like that, for yourself. There's lots of personal decisions people can make, but then companies have really outsized impacts, and not everybody thinks about that every day. So if you think about all the energy used by companies in their buildings or their factories, things like this, and the emissions that are created, and how they can reduce, their carbon emissions impact. All the stuff that they buy, companies buy tons of stuff. So the idea of voting with your dollar, so choosing products that are more sustainable or recycled, things like that, can help the company become more sustainable. But there's lots of certifications out there for companies and businesses and buildings as well in the green world that help create a structure around these things that are really helpful. So in my company, we do a lot of LEED certifications for buildings. Again, similar to B Corp, it's a points-based system to sort of prove and show that you're a sustainable building. So that's one of our focus areas.
So that has implications for the commercial real estate industry, which happens to be one of the industries that Lone Spark is in, because we're in the commercial real estate business. It sounds like there are ways that our commercial real estate owners can implement strategies and policies to ensure that their buildings, which is their business, buildings are more sustainable from an operating perspective. That's what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like, and a lot of companies have sustainability goals that they're trying to meet. Especially publicly traded companies now have interest from their shareholders in wanting to be more sustainable. And then there's just a cost savings perspective to this as well. It's not only just good for the environment, but reducing, becoming more energy efficient reduces your energy bills, your utility bills as well. So you're saving money with a lot of these when you're recycling more or buying less, you're creating less waste, but you're also saving money for your business. So there's a lot of great synergies around profit and being more environmentally friendly. But yeah, especially in commercial real estate, and we both work in this space. Most of the projects that we work on are commercial buildings, everything from large warehouse centers to office buildings, university buildings, you name it, any type of commercial building. We don't do a lot of single family residential, but sometimes in LA, we've done a few like giant mansions in LA.
Makes sense.
But yeah, all these are great opportunities for improvement and just efficiency, and that just goes hand in hand with business and small. You and I are both running small businesses, and just what that looks like for us. There's just a lot of opportunity to streamline things, I think.
One of the things I was wondering about is as a business, when you're looking to implement these policies to become more sustainable, do those policies result in a higher expense for the business, or is it kind of like, and I'm going to reduce this down to maybe the ridiculous, but it's like, I own a home, I'm going to slap on some solar panels because I want to, not be such a consumer, right? Mm-hmm. Although the near-term savings may be low, but the long-term savings and benefit is high. Right. Is it kind of one of those things where when businesses or buildings are implementing these strategies, maybe they're saving the goal? One of the end goals is, yes, to save money, but it's not like an instant thing because you have to make an investment in order to return on investment, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and again, for individuals like you and I in our personal lives, decisions that we make, or a business, it's the same thinking at the company level, where people are looking at the payback or the ROI, return on investment, and what that duration is. That really drives a lot of the decision making, because if it's a really long payback, 10 years or something like that, there's much lower likelihood of people being able to do it, immediately. But sometimes there's what we call low-hanging fruit, or things that are just no-brainers. Like you immediately do it and you save money right away, or within a year or two, or even 3-5 years, like pretty short payback periods. So like solar on your house, like a lot of these things, you have to have an upfront expense to do some of these projects, that, putting in LED light bulbs throughout your building or whatever it might be. If you're retrofitting an old building that needs to be upgraded, there's a cost to doing that, but then you're going to save money over the long term. So there's a really strong business case for a lot of these sustainability strategies.
Okay. Well, one of the things I've done in my personal life is I set my thermostat to 68.
There you go. Amazing.
Which is a cost savings and sustainable measure here in Boston, because it is freezing here.
That's right.
But the last couple of weeks has been at 72, and I had to revert course temporarily.
Well, that's actually a good point, that we don't want to sacrifice comfort as people, right? That's normal. We don't want to suffer because of these decisions. We want to live in a world of abundance, right? And be able to have all the things that we want and be comfortable, but also be sustainable. And I think that's the world that we're building right now. We're definitely headed that direction. And I'm really excited about the future for that reason. There's just so many cool things happening right now. Awesome.
So I'd like to transition for a moment, because you to me, your business would be considered a mature business. You're not an early stage startup. You've been operating for 10 years plus. So you're an experienced founder. It's not like you just started the business a year ago. Yeah. So you've likely seen and experienced the ups and downs, and you've gone through your early struggles. Yeah. Everyone's got struggles. Everyone has issues and challenges. So you've seen your fair share of them. I'm sure of it. Mm-hmm. However, starting a company in your industry, I would just imagine that it likely took you some time to get some early traction. Again, this is an assumption, and you can kind of talk through this
definitely.
a bit.
Yeah.
And here's why I would assume that. I would assume that because I would think that I'm a business owner. I operate, let's say, I'm an investor and I own warehouses and I own multifamily properties, or maybe I'm a university. And here comes Drew Shula and the Verdical Group, right? Coming, and they want to talk to me about sustainability. And the first thing that I'm hearing is, all right, I have to spend money. Okay. I have to spend money for potentially a low or a long-term ROI, as we just discussed a little bit ago. And I don't know if I really want to even hear anything about that right now. So this is an assumption that I would have. Can you talk a little bit about some of those early struggles and maybe dispel my assumption?
No, yeah, you're totally right. And it's so fun to talk about, early days, and, you've been in your business for a while now too. And it's, so nostalgic to think back. And we're still a small company. We're only a 20-person company, but like you said, we've been around for 12 going on 13 years. So we're through that, the startup valley of death that they talk about, those first couple years where you're going down before you start coming back up again. And that period is so incredibly stressful and energizing and fun all at the same time, that initial startup period. And any entrepreneur knows that feeling. And, I really cherish those memories and kind of miss those days in a lot of ways. But yeah, I started, it was just me in my garage. I was living in Pasadena out here in California, and the garage was there. So there was no heating and cooling, but just to have somewhere to work, because I had a 1-year-old inside, and, trying to do everything with spending as little as possible to not put out any money, and just focus on trying to land my first couple projects. And then kind of just organically grew from there, really focused on relationships with people to find my next projects. We get a lot of our work from architects and building owners and builders. So networking is a big key to success. The more people you know, the more friends you have, the more people that can send work your way. So my world anyway in the building industry is very relationship driven. We don't have a product; we're selling a service, so we're service based. And some of those, we had a tortoise that would be walking around in my garage in the early days with me out there, and it would literally be 110 degrees in the summer, so I would take my shirt off, sitting there at my laptop, literally sweating. And then in the winter, it gets pretty chilly out here. It gets down to the 40s, so I'd be out there with my winter coat on with a little space.
Right.
And that was my whole first year was doing that on my laptop in my garage. So anyway, it was lots of fun memories, but yeah, it was the first couple years was really just trying to get it off the ground. It was, I was lucky enough to land my first client after a couple months. I just had that one client then for a bit, and didn't have enough income to cover my my rent even, right? So I had a little bit of savings, but then I was able to land my second client, and then it just grew from there. After a year or so, I was able to hire my first person to help out. And then all of a sudden, 13 years later, you're like, oh, I actually got through it. And now we're more, you stabilize after a couple of years. So I think by year 3, I had stabilized more. I felt like I had some recurring clients. I had enough revenue coming in where I didn't feel like, I was constantly telling my wife in the early days, if this doesn't work out, I can always go back and get another job, those first couple of years. But by year 3, I felt like I had kind of gotten through that hardest part. But a lot of, common stat that's thrown out there is I think it's like 50% of small businesses fail within 5 years or something like that, which is a scary statistic. So, and then, even 13 years in now, like you said, I feel like I'm a little bit more seasoned, with my company, but there's always new things and always challenges. And that's what I love about being a business owner and in entrepreneurship. There's literally new things every day, and we're trying to figure out how to grow. Like, we got through a couple of hurdles of going from just me to 5 people, and then 5 people to 10 people, 10 to 20. So that's where I'm at now. And my next goal is, okay, how do we go from 20 to 40, and trying to figure that out. Anyway, I want to hear some of your stories too. What was it like for you?
Well, first of all, number one, congratulations for making it, because you're right. Most businesses fail within 5, but a higher percentage fail within 2. It's like 50 to 60% within 2 years. Yeah. And it's because a lot of founders, they enter into the business venture with a plan B. And the plan B is, well, like you just said, if it doesn't work out, I can go back to doing X, or I can jump to this other hot thing that's happening in the market right now that I see my friend doing that is working out. Okay. And then what happens is, for a lot of people, they don't give it enough time. And then they jump to the next hot thing, and then it happens again. Maybe things aren't working out, or they see that it's taking a long time. They're not making enough money. And then it's like, all right, well, I can always we'll do this other thing. And then they go to this other thing. And then the cycle repeats. But for those who stick with it and find ways to fight through those difficult times, have a very, very high success rate. So if you can get beyond those first 2 years, like you did, the probability of success is significant. So at Lone Spark, we were founded in 2021. We didn't launch and start going after customers until this fall of 2022. So we just really completed our second year of selling. The first year for us was building platform, building software, building strategy, and all of that stuff. And we put ourselves in the position to have that time in order to build the business concept, strategy, and the software needed to have a business. So that took us some time. So we just got through our second full year. We're in our third year now. We've had the ups and downs. We had a bunch of bumps and bruises. We still have bumps and bruises. And there's always those days as a founder where you feel like you're doing it all wrong. But then there's more days where you feel great about what you're doing. It's those moments when you feel like things aren't going well, that I believe that founders need a sounding board and someone else to talk to. Someone else that's smart, that isn't just there to cheerlead them. Like, wouldn't go to my mom, right? Because my mom's going to say, oh, she's just going to always tell me what I want to hear, right? Always going to tell me the good stuff. But you want to go to someone who's going to be transparent with you and who knows you. I believe are the best people to utilize for a sounding board. For me, they've helped me just be more grounded about my situation. My friends who know me, but are also the ones who are really honest with me, say, Mike, here's what I know about you. Here's what I know about your passion and what you're doing. Here's what I know about like the time that you spent doing it. Like, you got to keep pushing through it, man, is what they said. You got to keep pushing through it, because just because you had a bad day, or just because you had a bad week, or maybe you even had a bad quarter, let's talk about the reasons behind it. Yeah. Was it because, did you make a mistake? Did you hire the wrong people? Did you invest money in the wrong thing? Like, those are things that are recoverable, right? Because if people want your product, if there's a market for your product, if you know the product really well, if you have a plan to distribute, to sell, to create awareness about your product, et cetera, like, you're going to be okay. Like, you just got to keep moving forward. So you've been there already. I'm still kind of in those early stages, but have gotten through the second year. And for us and for Lone Spark, we're growing like crazy. We just completed just another a round of hiring. So we're positioned really well. Our partnership, our number of partners is growing. We have hundreds of partners who are on our platform. So our partnerships are kind of our distribution channel. So we have a very large distribution channel. So things are going really well for us, but it's been tough. It's not easy. It looks easy the outside looking in, like it looks easy, because those who are listening to this podcast, or those who are reading our LinkedIn profiles, or those who read press releases or view the website, or et cetera.
All they see the success moments.
Yeah, right? That's all they see is the success moments.
They don't see the grind, right?
So I'm here to talk about the grind, man. Like it is hard. It's really
Yeah,
hard.
you got to love the grind, right? And I truly do, and I think all successful entrepreneurs just love that. You love the challenge of it, And I know I hear it. I hear you too. That in the networking too of people that can relate to you, like you and I talking right now. We're both founders, entrepreneurs, and those are the best people for me to kind of get that feedback from as well. Like, I have friends that I, might have grown up with or went to college with or whatever. If you're not an entrepreneur yourself, you can't really relate all the way. So those are the most valuable folks for me to when I'm in those moments of doubting myself, and that happens to me at least a couple times a year, still to this day.
Of
13 years
course.
in, where a bunch of bad things will happen all at once, and I'll be out on my deck late at night, midnight, 1 a.m. in the morning, like walking around, pacing, trying to think like, okay, how am I going to get through it this time? And should I throw in
Yeah.
the towel now? So,
Should I give up? Should I sell
yeah,
the company?
exactly.
Right. Yeah. Well, the good news is you're not alone.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So one of the things that you and I both have to focus on is one, leadership. We're
Yeah.
both CEOs and founders, and there's a large leadership component of being, I think, a good CEO or an excellent CEO, leading by serving others. That's one of the core principles here at Lone Spark is for everyone at the company. We have a list of action-oriented behaviors that we hold our staff accountable to. And one of them is leading by serving others. I think that's a major one for us as CEOs, but also building team culture while scaling. The reason why I picked this topic for us to talk about is because the scaling process for an early stage company is different than the scaling process for a more mature company. Earlier stages, like you have to wear a lot of hats. Things change often. Sometimes you've got to make quick decisions, quick changes. You need to kind of make sure you have a team that is comfortable with that and is able to operate in that context. So I'd like to first hear from you and how you were able to scale the business earlier on, and how and how you're and what you focused on then when it comes to team culture, and how that's changing now that you're kind of trying to scale again, and what your culture is today. Because I'm sure it was different earlier than
Yeah.
it is now. Maybe it's the same. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just guessing.
I mean, I think so. Culture is extremely important to me because in my, prior roles that I had as an employee before I started my own company, I had, some really wonderful jobs at other companies, and I had one that was absolutely horrible, toxic, like the worst culture. And so I got to experience both sides of that. And in the toxic culture, I was stressed, I was miserable, and I got out of there as fast as I could. I hated working there. And so when I started my company, I knew how important it was because, of course, you need your team members to stick around. You can't have people miserable and leaving it. You can't start a business that way. It's a bad business that won't be as successful over time. And then, of course, for your own, just for yourself to enjoy life, and for all the people that you work with to enjoy life, you want to have just an amazing culture. And it ties back to the business, of course, for outcomes around retention of your team members. So we've got Emily, who I work with. We've been working together 10 years now. We've got a good core group of other team members that have been 5, 6, 7 years working together. In the earliest days, though, that was retention was very difficult because we had very few benefits and our pay was very low, and we were just scraping by getting things off the ground. But as the business matured, as we've been talking about today, we were able to provide more benefits over time, incrementally over time. It doesn't happen all at once. And get to a point where that side of things was stronger. But culture, it has been for me um, pretty similar from day one to what it is today. And I have heard that if you have to go into a company and try to change your culture, after some years, it's very difficult. That change management aspect, because it's your people, right? It's your team members, and people are very difficult to change. there's a great book called Good to Great. And one of the kind of core principles in that is just having the right people on the bus, just the right team members. And so, yeah, I mean, culture drives who you hire, right? And so that, having the people on your team that really understand the culture, that are part of it, the people in the company are the culture of the company. It comes from the people. So for us, we're very focused on in the environment. So it's people that are environmentalists, right? They're really passionate about the environment. And a lot of the work that we do is project management. So we're very detail oriented, and a lot of people have those characteristics as well. But within the company culture, there's a lot of just straightforward things around, being accountable for each other and showing up for each other and spending just fun quality time together regularly, so that that we're bonded, outside of just the work that we're doing, but we're going for a hike together and getting out and doing something fun. There's a lot about being happy at work that is not just the day-to-day tasks that you're working on. So, and I think that's what culture is to me, is making work fun, and having fun together with our team.
I'm with you 100%. I think to have an effective culture, the leaders need to have fun at work and have to be passionate about their work, because as you had mentioned, you work for a company with a catabolic culture, and what that does to you as an employee, I mean, forget about it. It's terrible. Yeah. I'm spoiled where I have worked at great companies with culture from the beginning. I've had 1, 2, 3 jobs in my career, and I'm 46 years old. I'll be 47 this year. And I've only worked for 3 other companies besides the companies that I own myself. So I had great standards that I was trained on before starting Lone Spark. And you're right. Changing culture, from what I understand, it is never fun, because you have to root out everyone who isn't on the bus and replace those people with new people. But the best thing that can be done for any new founder is to start with the right template from the beginning.
Yes.
And this morning, I was on a training call with a new hire, and one of the things that I asked the new hire was, what are some of the things that has surprised you so far during your onboarding? We have a 2-week onboarding process, and we go through, there's a long process of learning about the company, what we do, how we do it, our culture, mission, values, action-oriented behaviors, etc. And that person said, from day one, I could feel that the culture that you sold me during the interview process is actually the culture of the company.
Nice. Yeah.
So that actually made me feel really good. And then she also said, for a startup, you're really buttoned up, and surprised at how organized and kind of just you are with your mission, your purpose, what it is that your goals are. And I can hear it and feel it in all of the conversations that you have. Our team meetings, we have a daily stand up with the whole company where we talk about our goals. We talk about a lot of different things. And it was great for me to hear it, because as a founder, you're in it, and you think you're doing the right things.
Right.
But it helps to have someone that's new or from the outside kind of confirm that and validate that. So it made me feel really good today when I heard that, because culture is really important for us. And like you said, having the right people on the bus is important. It's sometimes really difficult for a lot of companies to find the right people, but it all starts with the leadership. The leadership must be the culture to attract those who are going to grow that culture.
Yeah,
we have to be it.
I read in an article or something at some point exactly what you're saying, that the point was that the primary role of the CEO is to be the person that carries the culture forward. So I agree with that as well.
Exactly. So so big investments there, and it's hard to build a great company without great culture. And like you mentioned before, great culture helps with retaining employees longer, which, by the way, saves the company money, because hire prospecting for a new employee, hiring that employee, training that employee, then the knowledge transfer from other employees to that employee to make them effective at their job. And if that employee is either terrible for culture or doesn't like the company culture and then leaves one way or another, whether it's a volunteer exit or they were asked to exit the company, it's terrible for culture, right? Yeah. And terrible for the bottom line of the company. So my advice to those who are operating, whether mature companies or startup companies, is the old adage of hire slow, fire fast, hire for culture fit. Really important, because everyone in your organization will sniff it, they'll sense it, they'll smell it, they'll taste that individual who's bad on culture.
And it's very toxic, right? Meaning, like, say you've got a team of 20 like us, it's still a small company, and just one person coming into the mix that is not a great fit, this creates this toxicity that it almost can spread like a disease almost, and it can infect other people. That other people are unhappy working with them, and then they get unhappy, and so that's an extremely important aspect of it's not, when you're interviewing folks to join your team, it's not just about can they do the job, do they have the best qualifications to do the work that they're going to be doing, but are they also going to be an awesome fit within our team and the culture side of things.
Lone Spark, we've implemented, as I mentioned earlier, something called action-oriented behaviors. And there's a list of behaviors that we, from the very beginning when we hire a new employee, that we essentially embed into their brains. Here are the things that are important at Lone Spark. And a couple of them are leading by serving others. We talked about that. But another one is be radically candid. So like at a lot of companies, employees are afraid to speak their mind. So we coach and train, teach our employees how to speak their mind, but how to do it in the most diplomatic and polite ways. Because I believe, as CEO, but a salesperson before a CEO, that you can say almost anything that you want to anybody, but it's how you say it, how you communicate that message. So we teach our employees how to communicate the message, even when the message isn't necessarily nice, because it's terrible for employees to hold on to just negative stuff, because like you mentioned a few minutes ago, that negative, it festers, man. It festers and you hold on to it, and then it creates animosity. And then it's like, well, do I want to be here now? Yeah. No one is taking action on it. Well, no one knows about it because you're not saying anything about it. Right. So we really lay into our action-oriented behaviors pretty heavily, and being radically candid is one of them. We truly want people to communicate what they see and what's happening. Time, place, forum, right? Of course. But we really spend a lot of time on the coaching and training process as it relates to communication and communicating your opinions and feelings.
I love that. Wholeheartedly agree. We try to structurally build in those opportunities to get the feedback as much as we can, because as much as we think we might be doing a great job all the time as CEOs, there's all kinds of things that you might be totally unaware of, or unintended consequences. And things like, we have an annual fully anonymous survey that we send out to our team members to make sure we're getting feedback. We have a meeting every couple months that I'm not at, that the rest of the company is at, where they can feel free to vent about anything that's going on. And so then a couple team members report back to me on any action items that might come out of that for things that we can improve. We do triannual check-in meetings, basically like performance review type meetings, but they're also a forum for people to talk about anything that needs to be improved. So anyway, all these, we build in these times to make sure that we're really getting the feedback for how we can improve. That's very important, even in small businesses too, because we don't have as much structure all the time in small businesses, like what you were talking about. Your team member who's impressed with how buttoned up you are. Gosh, in my first couple years, you sound a lot more put together than we were. We were very just figuring things out and kind of all over the place the first couple of years. And it took us a long time before we had some of these structures. But the sooner that you can implement it, the better, and the stronger your company will be. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'd like to transition to our last topic of the hour, which is leveraging partnerships and strategic collaborations for growth. And so your business, partnerships-based business, my business, partnerships-based business, we rely on our partners in order to do business. And without our partners, we wouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
So partnership-based businesses, there are challenges that come along with that because you have a lot of people to keep happy.
Yeah.
So I think what I really wanted to nail down is at least your opinion, and then I'll share mine. What is the power of strategic partnerships, specifically in your business, and how has it kind of helped you or made a difference or helped you kind of get to where you're at?
Yeah. Gosh, that's such a good question, and I hadn't really thought about it too much, but yeah, I mean, we're a service company, so we're providing services around green building services, sustainability services to our clients. And then we also have this conference that we do every year that has 1,000 attendees and lots of companies that are involved as sponsors or that are partnering with us on the conference as well. And I just really think about it as, again, if you kind of like use your own personal life just as sort of a microcosm of this. You have your friends in your personal life, and your friends are always going to be the ones if they'll ask you first for help with something, or they'll want to collaborate with you versus someone that they don't know. So just again, it's really, I mentioned this before, but being a relationship based company and that services that we provide, we're just sort of trying to be friends with as many people as we can, and not in a disingenuous way, but like, how can we be real? And like you were talking about earlier around the alignment with your values and your culture, with who you really are and who you're out there in the market as. So we're environmentalists. We're trying to make the planet more sustainable. And so we talk about that with our clients all the time and share it so that our values are out there. We wear them on our shirt sleeves. And then it's just, a lot of it is just the basics. And you hear, I'm a big Warren Buffett fan. And of course, he's, I think, 80 something years old now, and
still crushing it, by the way.
Right. Yeah. He's very, very old school because he's older, and he talks a lot about just the most basic values of being a human, like just integrity, accountability, honesty. Like these are all the basics, building blocks of a successful business. You have to operate that way. If you're out there, lying, cheating, stealing, or doing anything that creates a negative impact for the company, you're hurting your business. So, it's just important to have those good, strong values of just being a good person across your whole team. And it's the CEO's job to infuse that across the company and make sure that those are the values of the company as well, and every single team member to work in that way all the time.
Yeah, I think a lot of companies who focus on relationship-based businesses, I believe, this is a personal belief of mine, that you kind of want to align yourself with relationships that believe in the same things that you do to the extent that you can, right? Because those are going to usually always be your best partnerships, your best relationships. If there are companies that maybe could be an opportunity for you to do business with, but they have vastly different beliefs than you have, that can create relationship conflicts. Yeah. And may not necessarily be the business, the partnership, the relationship that you want to align yourself with.
I have two quick examples of that too. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay, I love that you just brought this up. So, one example of a mission aligned partner that's been great for my company, and I'm wearing the hat today, 1% for the planet. They are a corporate giving program. So for-profit companies can sign up for 1% for the planet and commit to giving 1% of their annual revenue to environmental nonprofits. So it's a great way to give back and commit to that. And it was one of the first things I signed us up for, because I just saw that alignment when I first started the company, like a couple months in. I signed us up for this program, when I had zero revenue. I want to give back through my company. I want to do good. So I'm going to sign up for this program. And we've kept it going. And now we've given, over $100,000 or something through the past, 12, 13 years. But, we stayed in touch with the 1% for the Planet folks, and then we get hired by other companies to do sustainable event production as well. We do our own conference, but we do conferences for other people as well. And 1% eventually hired us to do their annual conference for them, years later too. So they became a client of ours as well. So we're contributing through their company, and then they hired us and sort of contribute back to us. So it's just an awesome story there, and we love 1%. Opposite side of that, or opposite sort of example, a bad mission aligned partner where there's not alignment. Early days of our conference, the Net Zero conference has been going on about, I think, 11 or 12 years now. And early days, we received funding from SoCal Gas. They're one of the local utilities here in Southern California. And it's a long story, but the gas utility was very, very embedded in the environmental community. And I personally, and in the market as a whole, learned a lot more over time that natural gas is, of course, a fossil fuel. It's, just like oil and coal, natural gas has huge carbon emissions and is a fossil fuel. And anyway, we accepted money from them in the early days to sponsor our Net Zero conference, and before we kind of realized the sort of contradiction in that we're trying to solve the climate crisis, but we're taking money from a fossil fuel company. And so after years, we said no to that, and it was a very difficult decision because it was like 10% of our revenue at the time, and we just shut that off and said no. And so we were really worried about what that was going to do to our company, but we were able to bounce back and recover, and things have been great. And it wasn't a huge impact on us, but it was a decision that we made around sort of like following your heart, or like, working in a way and with partners that you are aligned with, and not working with those that you're not aligned with. It was a big decision for us as a company.
Right. You don't want to be known as the hypocritical company.
Yeah.
As opposed to the sustainable company. So,
right.
So it sounds like an amazing decision. Clearly it worked out for you. And I think we both share the idea and the belief that if you want to be successful in business, that is definitely a core principle, which is align yourself with relationships, partnerships, and customers that align with your company. Mm-hmm. Well, Drew, this was great. I mean, I can go on for another hour in this conversation, but to save the ears and the time of our listeners and viewers, we will have to unfortunately cut things short, Drew. So
this was awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. I loved it.
So this was great to spend time. I appreciate it. I'd love to have you on in a future podcast as well. And hey, man, congratulations on the success of your company. Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. You're making the world a better place.
Hey, Michael, thank you. Shout out to Lone Spark. You guys keep growing too. Maybe I'll come back on after I achieve my goal of going from 20 people to 40 people and doubling again. Then I can tell the story of how we did it.
Absolutely. And hey, maybe we'll see you at Coachella this year.
Yeah, let's do it. Awesome.